Gentlemen, there was a BuzzFeed list that named the things that people said they felt too old for. Now, some of the things on this list included arguing in traffic. I think I'm past the age of road rage.
Well past.
Arguing with yourself? Arguing with like a random person that can't hear you in the other car?
Maybe the other driver.
Okay, I got you. All right.
I'm backseat driving myself. Posting to social media. I still post, but I don't get like political or anything. Or my goal is to avoid Twitter fights. I think that's my only thing. Something else that people feel too old for, going to a concert without reserved seats.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
God,
my
I'm
gosh.
right
I can feel that.
That's why I love the Amerisbank Amphitheater. Get those reserved seats, and you're good to go, man.
Did you know they charge, and this is almost like something y'all do, a fee if you want to sit on the aisle?
Did not.
We went to a concert, an extra $20 just to sit on the aisle.
It's worth it.
Paid it, loved it. Wearing jeans that don't stretch. Too old for that.
Those are better.
But all of these, they do feel stressful as we get older. So for what you do and for the families that you serve, how do you help eliminate financial stress?
Yeah.
It's a big one.
I think it probably starts, we say this all the time, kind of sound like a broken record, but you have to start with a financial plan.
100%.
Our experience is most financial plans actually aren't worth that much because it's a static document. Maybe it's in a nice fancy leather bound binder, and the second you get home, you put it up on the shelf, and then it starts collecting dust, and it's immediately worthless.
Became obsolete yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you want to spend some time and just talk about financial plans and how it should be done versus how it is done.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what we find most of the time, just in conversation, is that most people's plan is a dollar amount. My plan is save up until X. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $2 million, whatever it is for
I got
you.
a number I'm trying to hit, and once I get there, my guy tells me I'm good.
And so if that's the case, there's a lot of questions to be asked. But no, I think it'd be a good idea. I mean, we have these exact conversations almost daily. Maybe we should kind of bring up some hypothetical examples about some recent conversations that we might have had.
Yeah, please do.
I think, the first thing that comes to mind in this conversation is
Eliminating stress.
Yes, exactly. And how to eliminate stress. It depends on what's causing you the stress, right? Is it your job causing you stress that you hate and you want to get out of it? Or is it the markets and all the what ifs about,
the news
taxes
cycle
and news headlines and what to do in an election year and how's this going to make or break the next 30 years of my life and just all these maybe overblown at times, headlines. I think that's exactly what it is. Heavy headlines. We got a lot of those going on right now too. So, but Matt, I'm curious, just off the top of your head, you talk about eliminating stress. I hear you all the time in our office talking to folks. What's one of the first things that comes to mind with you or even a recent conversation you've had?
I think the big thing that I hear all the time, people come in and they'll say, hey, I've saved this much for retirement, getting ready to retire in a year or two. And they want to know if they can make it happen. And so we'll typically pose the question, well, how much do you need to spend? What's your budget like? What do you need to live on in order to have the retirement that you want? And it's funny, I ask that question kind of tongue in cheek because I know that most people don't have an answer for that question. And if someone asked me, I probably wouldn't have an answer either. And what most people will fire back is, well, that's why I'm here. I was hoping that you would tell me.
You tell me what I can spend.
I was hoping you would tell me how much I can spend, and then I'm going to decide if that's good enough. Like, am I there or am I not there? I don't know, but I'm hoping you can tell me. And so one of the ways that we're able to eliminate the stress of maybe timing, deciding is now the right time or is it not the right time? How do you know? Well, we stress test all of our retirement plans. And the way that we do that is we like to think of retirement as not pass fail. It's not, yes, you can do it or no, you can't.
And it's a razor thin line as to whether you can stay retired or you're entering the job market again at 75.
Exactly. Retirement planning is not pass fail. It's a sliding scale. And so the way that we present, when someone says, I'm hoping you can tell me if I can retire or not, the way that we do that is by this idea of spending capacity. So we look at your assets, and I've got an example that we'll talk about of a client that may or may not have come in the last week or so. We fudged the numbers a little bit just to protect their identities. But they had about $1.3 million. They had around $800,000 in qualified accounts. So a qualified account would be, SEP, simple, 401k, IRA, 403B, TSP, $800,000 in qualified accounts, $300,000 in Roth accounts, which, as most of you know, those are tax-free dollars. They've already paid the tax. They can take it out tax-free. And they had around $200,000 in a brokerage account. Those brokerage accounts are going to be the things that they generate you those 1099s every single year.
Your gains are going to cost you taxes.
Yeah,
every
the
year.
gains, you pay capital gains on the gains. And so when they came in and they said, hey, we want to know if we can retire. We're like, all right, great. Well, we can figure that out for you. And we run them through our retirement plan, and we come up with this spending number. We get to tell them, well, based on your $1.3 million, based on your Social Security payments, based on the fact that neither of you have a pension, you guys can spend $8,300 a month if you wanted to retire, next year. Right. And that $8,300 a month is super solid in that it is stress tested. We stress test it through the Great Depression. We stress test it through the 2007 through 2009 financial crisis and all kinds of other scenarios. But again, it's not pass-fail. Most people, if they're going to a retirement planner, they might see like a probability of success meter. There's a 70% chance that you're going to be able to retire, and a 30% chance that it's not going to work.
Which, if that's what you're getting, how do you make a decision based on that? Right. Like, are you willing to just bank on the fact that you're going to be in the 70% every year?
Right. What does that even mean?
What does it even mean? How do I make a decision based off of that? It's not very helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, that creates more stress. We're talking about how do you eliminate stress. You go to a retirement planner and they say, hey, you got a 75% chance of being able to retire when and how you want.
I don't want 75%.
Nope.
That doesn't eliminate much stress for me.
I don't want to get on a Delta flight.
You got a 75%
chance we may make it safely.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
No. So
it's not pass-fail.
We don't talk in terms of those terms. It's not pass-fail. It's not a 75% chance it's going to work. We say, no, you can spend $8,300 a month. And if your total retirement balance, if at any point we hit we call it an upper guardrail. If at any point your $1.3 million eclipses over 1.37, we're going to give you a pay raise. Okay. You're not going to spend $8,300. You're going to spend $9,000 a month. And then the flip side is also true. If at any point your plan balance drops below some lower threshold, and in the early years for this client, it was around $1 million. If we ever drop below $1 million, we're going to drop your spending to $7,900 a month. So from $8,300 up to $9,000, or from $8,300 down to $7,900. And then the conversation becomes, hey, is that workable for you? Yeah. Is that a range that you can actually feel comfortable with?
Hey, best case scenario, if I told you you can stay retired and you get a pay raise in retirement, great. Or worst case scenario, hey, you can stay retired, but you had to spend $500 less per month. Now you can make a decision.
Those
That's
are
what you're
terms
after.
that we can actually operate within. Like, everybody understands spending per month and how much they can spend and what their bills are. Nobody understands, you got a 75% chance of this being just fine. Like, what does that even mean? Nobody knows what that means. And so how do you eliminate stress? Well, first we got to talk in the right terms. And the right terms are not pass-fail. It's how much can you reasonably spend? And when things go wrong, because they will go wrong, how much do you have to adjust that monthly spending?
So when you say when things go wrong, real quick, let me give you that number, 770-741-0120. You're listening this weekend, you're going, that's me. Can I retire comfortably? I don't want to be 75%. I want to be 100% all in on my retirement. How do I get there? With the help from the team of the Vincent Financial Group. 770-741-0120 to take advantage of that no-cost, no-obligation consultation. RetireATLradio.com. When things go wrong, things. Define things for me.
I think this would be a perfect opportunity to maybe go through our Great Depression stress test.
I think everyone has in their minds sort of like the worst case scenario. And for most folks, it's the Great Depression. Well, my grandparents experienced that, and I remember them talking about this and how much it affected their lives, and, just the struggle and the pain and the difficulty that time was. And so it's a good backdrop. So we take them, as Matt's going to share in a minute some details on, we take our clients and stress test them all the way back to that. Like, what if you had to relive the Great Depression in your lifetime? And so it's a pretty significant, peace of mind comes from knowing the facts, the truth, the black and the white, not a projection and hypothetical, but this is what it looks like for your retirement. If this happens, this is what it looks like if that happens. And so, let's talk Great Depression.
Would it eliminate stress if you knew that you lived through the Great Depression and you had to adjust your spending by $600, $700, $800 a month, like would that eliminate the stress?
Yeah,
I think for most people,
yeah.
I think for most people it would.
Hey, your Delta flight's going to make it to its destination on time, but there's going to be some turbulence between here and there. Do you still want to ride? Yeah, I do.
If I
Okay,
get there,
make a
yeah,
decision.
they're safe. Yeah.
Let's give some context around the Great Depression. So we're talking 1929.
Well, hold on. Is there an in-flight meal served on this?
Snacks.
Again,
For
these
a
are
fee.
all elements.
Coca-Cola
You got an
products.
Amex? Then yes.
Is there a Sky Lounge involved here? Let's break it down in front. All right, sorry, go ahead.
So we're talking 1929 to 1939. And so the way that we stress test our plans through this particular time period is we assume that retirement starts in 1929. And for some context, between 29 and 31, the U.S. stock prices lost over 85%.
That's like Black Tuesday, Black Wednesday, Black Thursday.
It's all the nasty days there in that Great Depression scenario. Yeah, 85% drop. Unemployment was 25% in 1933, and fortunately, during the Great Depression, there wasn't also inflation. There was deflation, so that might have helped a little bit. But regardless, we run this client, this $1.3 million client, $800,000 in IRAs, $300,000 in Roth, $200,000 in brokerage accounts.
No pension, but
no
Social
pension,
Security.
but Social Security. We run them through the Great Depression stress test, and we say, all right, you retire in 1929. In June of 1933, so 4 years in, we're calling you, and we're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we've got some bad news. Things aren't going well. That's maybe an understatement. 85%
There's the
drop
Dust
in the
Bowl
market.
going on.
Hey,
Yeah.
things aren't going according to plan, and we need to adjust your spending. And we need you to spend $520 a month less. Can you do that?
Yeah, you were going to be spending $8,300 a month.
Now we need you to spend $7,800. How's that sound to you?
Well, when you call and say sit down, things aren't going well. I'm prepared for the worst of the worst.
Exactly. Most people are.
I mean, do you do that on purpose? You set them up.
Well, I think it just goes to show you that if you do a good job in planning, your retirement plan should be pretty robust. Like there are ways to make your retirement plan pretty resilient. We're talking about the worst time period for the stock market in its history, 1929 to 1939, and the biggest reduction in spending that we would need to come back to these clients with would be $520 less per month during the height of the Great Depression. The worst part of the Great Depression. I mean, that's you can't say bulletproof because it's not bulletproof, but my gosh, does that eliminate stress?
Yeah, I think we have to take this situation and maybe we zoom out a minute and just realize the significance of what Matt's describing here. I mean, these are clients we talk to every day. These exact situations. Now, can we foresee the next Great Depression? Obviously not. But we're talking about just stress testing things, hypothetically, putting it through the ringer so that you know when you make your decision to pull the trigger on retirement, you know what's around the corner, or at least you know what you'll do, determined based on what comes around the corner that you can't see now. And I think that's the whole point of planning. And I love the fact that we're talking about this is because, all of these conversations are based around income planning. Yeah. How do you eliminate stress or at least alleviate mitigate the stress and the anxiety of retirement? Well, you've got to kind of tighten the screw a little bit and not talk about like our initial conversation about saving to a certain dollar amount, because that's not talking about income. So if you just save to a certain pile of money, there's no tax conversation because you don't know how you're going to spend it yet.
There's no risk conversation.
There's no risk conversation. There's no inflation. There's no healthcare conversation. The pile of money is either enough or it's not. It's pass fail. I got to go back to work when I'm in my 70s or I don't. And gosh, I mean, how does anyone have any peace of mind if that's the plan? And so taking a step back and realizing that this is possible. I think take a deep breath and realize that this level of understanding, no one's reading the future. We're not stock picking. We're not looking at trends and determining if it's the right time for you or not. We're literally just poking holes in the plan and seeing what happens on the other side. And I think that is a process that what we find is that most clients, most people that call us, they don't have this yet. Even if they have, what they would call an advisor, someone helping them with their investments in their portfolio,
they got to the number that they think they need to get
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
They can't answer these questions.
Okay, there's a question for you. 770-741-0120. If you'd like to have your portfolio stress test, it's no cost, no obligation from the team at the Vincent Financial Group. And if you've done a good job in savings, you have a nice 401k, maybe you're lucky enough to still have a pension, a savings account, an IRA, a Roth, call the team. Let's sit down. Let's stress test your portfolio. How are you? Where is your stress level? How can they help you eliminate that? 770-741-0120. Is it a problem if people come in with that number that you just mentioned, Matt, that people come in and say, I'm not going to retire until I have at least 1.3, 1.8, $2 million saved? Can there be problems with that?
I think the next question is why? Why is that?
Where'd that number come from?
Where did that number come from? Why is that number important to you? And ultimately, what are your actual goals as it relates to retirement? Because here's what I can tell you. Been doing this long enough, and I've asked enough people about their goals as it relates to retirement to know that there's not a single person when asked, paint the picture of your retirement. Tell me what's important to you. Tell me how you're going to spend your time. Tell me what it is you really want to accomplish. Not a single person has come in and said, my goal for retirement is to hit my $3.2 million number. Okay. That's never been the answer. The answer is always, friends, family, travel, security, lifestyle, legacy. It's never about the number. And so, and yet, people still do come in and say, I'm trying to hit a number. Yeah. But as soon as we shift the conversation to what are your goals, the number goes away.
And we love that conversation. I mean, look, it's having a goal. We have to start from somewhere, right? We don't learn these things in school. I didn't learn any financial planning or any sort of investment management or here's how to set realistic goals for the future I didn't learn any of that in school.
I don't feel bad. None of our kids are either.
So. Yeah, it's getting worse. Actually,
it's worse.
It's getting worse.
Curriculum, it's not getting better.
Yeah, and so you don't learn it at your employer. Rare, maybe every now and then I'll see like a rock star HR department bring in someone to talk to their team about, their retirement plan or their 401k and ask questions, but that's even few and far between. So you just don't learn this stuff. So having a number and say I'm saving and my goal is X of a balance in my retirement account, it's a great place to start. I think what we're after is you're not going to get peace of mind from that though.
And I think a lot of times
you may never get to that number.
You may never get to that number.
Or you may realize it's the wrong number. You didn't even know.
That's what I was going to get at. A lot of times people come in with a number because maybe they've been told, well, you can just withdraw 4% of your account and that you need to get to, 25x whatever you want to spend, a 4% withdrawal rule. And so that they're backing into the number that way. But when you back into your spending that way, again, that doesn't take into account taxes. That doesn't take into account Social Security. That doesn't take into account the risk that you're taking. It doesn't take into account the fact that your expenses are going to change as you age. You're not going to be traveling like you are in your 60s, early 60s, as you will when you're, in your late 80s. Right. More than likely.
Right.
You're not going to be going as hard.
Yeah.
You're going to be
go-go
years,
your slow-go years, and your no-go years.
Your no-go years. That's right. Hopefully, my no-go years are, I'm 115 years old, and those are my no-go years. But
there's a reason at the golf course the gold tees at the very front are for the senior citizens. Give you a little advantage. You can't quite play from the whites or the blues or the blacks like you used to.
And if you're a scratch golfer out there playing from the gold, call us because we always are looking.
We
for
need
that
you in our
ringer
foursome
for our foursome.
For our upcoming golf tournaments. That always helps. Yeah. Hey, that number is 770-741-0120. Again, 770-741-0120. The team at Vincent Financial Group want to offer you that stress test. And Aaron, let's walk through that here for a couple seconds. Somebody's listening this week and they're going, this is what I need. They're speaking to me. They make the phone call. They schedule the consultation. They've done a good job. They have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. They're getting serious about their retirement. They want to take advantage of the stress test. What does that look like when they come in to see you? Is it a long process? Is it one meeting, two? What does it look like?
It's a good question, Mark. So I think it's really important to understand this. The first thing I would say to the person who's considering calling us or finding out about the stress test is kudos to you. Like, you are already on the other side of the mistakes being made. The key mistake, the chief mistake, is not getting anyone to look at it with you. Like, that's number one. Have you saved enough? Are your expectations correct? We don't know the answer to that yet. But first of all, good for you for initiating somebody, for engaging somebody to have this conversation. And kudos to you for saving, a significant amount of money. You mentioned $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million. That's a lot of money. Like, good for you for saving that up. And that's the tone of our conversation is going to be, you've done a lot of things right. Let's make sure we put that to work for you. Let's make sure we're asking the right questions to continue it. So it's not a long process. Matter of fact, a lot of our first conversations are via Zoom. We're all aware of Atlanta traffic and all that's going on. And so sometimes that first kind of introductory conversation is just preferred to have it over Zoom. That's okay. We do that a lot. I mean, we'd love to. I would rather see you face to face. I'd rather you come to our office. I can make you a cup of coffee. We can talk about, whatever recent sports are happening. We can have a good time. But you prefer Zoom, that's fine. And it'll be a 20, maybe 30-minute conversation unless you've got some specific questions, of which we're just going to find out about you. I want to know what makes you tick. What are your fears? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Matt mentioned the term legacy a minute ago. Like, it's not just about how much money you're going to spend. What do you want to leave behind? What are the things that you want to be known for, that you want to experience, that you want to do? Those are what's going to color our first conversation more than amounts of money.
That number is 770-741-0120. I like that you said that. The home office of the Vincent Financial Group, you can find it in downtown Woodstock, but Zoom is always available, because how many times there's a funny meme going around that says right now, where are you from? Atlanta. No, really, where are you from? All right, I'm from Metro Atlanta. Where are you really from? I'm from Cartersville. I mean, Atlanta is so spread out, and there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of those Zoom consultations from the team at the Vincent Financial Group, but it starts with the phone call. 770-741-0120. You can meet the team, see all the services they have to offer when you visit retireatlradio.com.